Hello, guys. Miss Ann. This is my testimony. I kind of grew up Catholic. I was born Catholic, as I say, because they baptized at birth. Well, I always grew up in the church, and I was trying to rebel from my childhood and all that because I guess you could say I had an abusive father. And, through this and other events in my past led me to become who I am today. All right, I had an abusive childhood. My dad was a truck driver. He was only home on weekends, and when he was home, wasn't good for me. So I had an older sister and a younger brother, and I would always protect my younger brother by provoking anything my dad had because I was older than my brother. I felt I could handle it, and he couldn't. So this was all part of my upbringing that led me to stray away from God, to rebel and get into things I got into, which ended up leading me to prison. In prison, I'm still doing me, hard-headed. And God knew what type of person I was because He made me. He made me perfect as He seen fit. And like I said, I'm hard-headed. I don't get things the first time. So God put me in a position where I had 6 years to beat my head on the wall to where I could get it in my head what I needed to do. And through all of this, I'm going to the hole and whatnot, and God's sending His messengers, such as Miss Ann, to reach out and try to just plant a seed. So while I'm in the hole at Marion, one of God's messengers comes to plant a seed, and he puts it in my head. He says, why are you in the hole and getting ready to ride out of another prison again? So I thought about it, and my answer was basically the people I hang out with, the choices I make, and the things I was doing. And he said, well, why don't you just stop? I said, it's not that easy. And he gave me every excuse that I would give. And I just kind of laughed. I said, yeah, I got all those excuses and more. And he said, so when are you going to find change in the parking lot? It's got to start someday. Why not today? So he told me I should pray to God to take away everything that's troubling me. And I kind of snickered and laughed. He said, no, I'm serious. Do it now. He's like, I'll pray with you. So I prayed there a little bit with him, and kind of, it was in the back of my head, but I wasn't full-heartedly believing. I got to Grafton with Miss Ann, and was hanging out with the wrong people again, and something kept pulling me to the church. So I go over to the church a few times. Miss Ann sees me. She, another one of God's angels, she reaches a hand out and tries to pull me into church, gets me involved in Kairos Bible studies, and got me really involved in the church. And since then, my life just started changing for the better. Now, granted, I got sent away from Grafton to another prison because I don't know how to act. And I still stayed in the church. And I got into the church at Madison and got into Bible college and Kairos there, and stayed involved in the church. And I got a B+ in Bible college. The one book that I took, the other one's getting mailed to me now. But I stayed in the church. I had a lot of sidetracks, pulling me away from the church. But I still managed to go every day to the church. And as I got out, I got involved in Rock City, Short North, and I really liked that church. They wanted me to become a life group leader, and before I could, I actually got sent back to jail for protecting my daughter. So, that when I was in Columbus, I had a $19.50 an hour job, working 50 hours a week. I was making good money. And apparently God's path was for me to get closer to my family, closer up here. And so I moved to Canton. I'm living with my sister right now. But I've had a lot of struggles along the way. Something you might notice a slur in my speech. I got in a car accident, punched drunk for 3 months. I got, I had some brain damage from that. Death of my brother. I had going to prison. These are all incidents where God was trying to get my attention. And finally, when I stopped to start listening and started listening to people from the church like Miss Ann and Mr. Frank Brown and a few others, I started looking at myself in a self-reflection and was able to humble myself. Miss Ann can attest for it. I was far from humble when she first met me, but through studying the Bible, being around like-minded individuals, I was able to stand here before you today. And I don't know, okay, so now that I'm a living example, my family is also getting involved in the church. My mother is involved in the church. My son is too. He got baptized not that long ago, which that was awesome. They told me that. Yes, ma'am. I also want to talk about the emotions that you were talking about. This is another thing that kept me from going to the church, was I would get emotional. Like, I'd come to church and I'd just sit there, my tears would fall down. And through Miss Ann helping me understand why, it's the Holy Spirit coming down on you. And it would always happen to me to where it was debilitating. Tears would fall, I couldn't talk, and it was embarrassing. So Miss Ann helped me to understand this feeling and a few others, and because of this, I'm more involved in the church today because of it.
So when Josh got here this morning, I could tell he was a bit nervous. This was just kind of got sprung on him last night. He didn't really know what to expect and didn't really know what he was going to say. And so I said, well, we could, we have different options. I said, we could just kind of just talk and just share what you want to share. I said, we can come up here and we can talk and just kind of, I can ask you questions and so you can begin to share and feel more comfortable. And he said, well, I don't think Miss Ann's going to like that. And I said, well, you're probably right, because normally when I do this type of stuff, she doesn't even come. So we figured we decided we'd do a combination of the both, because he wanted to share his story, but there also might be other things in his story that, didn't really come out, and that, we can begin to ask questions and just, he's being open, and he's being vulnerable, and he's allowing himself to come forward and tell his story and, share his experiences in his heart. And so, as you guys know, one of my desires is I want to know who the God was that showed up in your life. So as he's going through this, what God showed up? Was it the angry monster God, or is it the God that is love? Is it the compassionate God who shows up and embraces and hugs and forgives? Or is it the judge that condemns and punishes and that kind of stuff? And where on this journey did you encounter God? Did you encounter God with Miss Ann in prison? Was she the voice in the face of God? When you think of God, is that what you see? I hope not. Because one thing we were talking about this morning, we were talking about the shack and why in the shack did God show up as a black woman? Well, it was because Mackenzie had so many issues with his father that he couldn't identify God and Father. And so if God showed up as a man, he would have rejected it. God needed to show up in a way in which he would be able to accept it. And so when you hear his story, he needed God to show up as a Southern woman. Because that's the way he could hear God speak through her, where he wouldn't hear God speak through a father figure. He needed the mother figure, the grandma figure, sister figure. He needed the female God, because once again, God is male and female. Got to keep that in mind. God created both male and female in his image, right? So anyway, that's how we ended up here. And so I want you guys thinking of questions. If you have questions that you want to hear, that's fine. There is no script. There is no plan to this because, once again, I didn't. He at least knew last night. I literally found out about an hour and a half ago. So just keep that in mind. So, but the first question that I ask, and I ask everybody this, is who are you and why are you here?
Well, I am a sinner, no better than anybody else. I used to be a lot worse until I've devoted my life fully to Jesus. And it's gone as far as to where I'm being a fisher of men now myself, witnessing to people and asking them if they believe and trying to pull them closer to Christ, because people in my circle aren't the same people in your circle or Miss Ann's circle, but we can all reach them through each one of us.
So is that why you're here?
Why am I here in church?
No, why are you here? Why do you exist?
Why do I exist? Because God has a purpose for me. Oh my goodness.
That's my boy. When you say, so when I ask you, who are you? And you respond with, I'm a sinner. That puzzles me. Puzzles me. Because did God create you to be a sinner? And so when I ask, who are you? I want to know, what is the image that God created you to be?
I don't know the answer to that question. Who I am is who my past has shaped me to be. I'm a person who doesn't like people who abuse women or children, and I feel myself I'm more of a protector, like a provider for my family. Just the underdog, really. I kind of stick up for the little guy, even in jail. Like, I did not like it when people would pick on somebody weaker than them just because they were weaker than them. That would be my buddy. Like, well, you have a problem with him. Well, that's my buddy, so now you have a problem with me. To me, it probably has something to do with my growing up with my abusive father, was because, you know, I know what the reverse role is, and I don't like it. So I kind of step in and be the guy to protect the little guy, I guess.
So do you think that because there's two people that we are. There's the person that God created us to be, and then there's the person that the world made us into.
Absolutely.
And so, is that the person that the world made you into, or do you think that God put something inside of you because he knew the situations that you were going to have to go through?
I think the question's one and the same, because if my past one shapes me for who I am today, I wouldn't have been able to get through the tribulations and trials of prison, you know, all this. So, yeah, I think the question's one and the same. I think my past shaped me to be who I am, to get through it, so that whatever God's plan is in the end, I'm prepared for it.
So how do you see yourself seeking that out going forward?
Like I said, the American Bible Academy, I'm doing that, and because of that, door was opened up. Church wanted me to be a life group leader in Columbus, and so I think it's evolving still. I don't know where it's going, but I know God knows where it's going, and that's where I keep my trust.
So when you have setbacks, so he told the story a little bit. His daughter was in a situation with a guy who was much, much older. He stepped in to protect his daughter from this older man, and he ended up having to go back to jail for 90 days. So when you go through this whole previous life, then you go through the prison life. You have this transformation in prison and continuing coming out of prison. Then you have this setback. Is that make you begin to challenge or question your faith? There's like, is this all this for nothing?
Not at all. What it makes me do is reflect. Because obviously, like, I had the right intentions, my approach was wrong. I approached the situation with a prison mentality, thinking you can solve all problems with violence. This is not, in prison, yes, that's a universal language. It's how you solve all problems. But out here, it's not the same. So what I should have done, really looking back, there's nothing I could have done that would have worked. But I could have went about it a different way. I could have called the police and had them do a welfare check on my kids. But I didn't. I decided to take the law in my own hands and tell that 19-year-old boy that I was coming to put my hands on him. And then it was a 3-hour drive from my house to my kid's mom's house, and I texted them about it the whole way, telling them. I used a lot of biblical references that could, be interpreted in many ways. I said there's a lesson in the pain. There's there's redemption in the blood, and there's fear in the lesson. And I said, Sunday, we're going to have a come to Jesus moment Sunday. And it can be interpreted in many different ways, but I meant it in a way that my kid's mom would know. And the police were there by the time I got there, so I had to go to jail for 90 days for protecting my daughter, but going about it the wrong way.
So do you think that there was something in the journey that had kind of prepared you for some of these setbacks that might happen, where you realize that even though you're on the right path now, there are sometimes that humanity side of you is still going to get the best of that godly side of you?
And now, this has happened once before when I got kicked out of Grafton. This is just a stumbling stone, a setback where I had to sit back and think about what I was doing to my approach, like I said, so I could do better next time. So this was a trial that I had to fail to learn how to cope with it next time.
So when you talk about God and you think about God throughout the course of your life, being, as you say, born Catholic and having that kind of mentality, and then seeing what you see out of your human father and the example of that, and then having the experiences with the car accidents and all the other stuff and the prison, how has your view of God kind of shifted and transformed from a child, adolescent, till now?
See, I believe my faith was always strong, even as a child. Like, when I was scared, like, in bed at night, I'd have a bad dream, and, I'd be so scared to get to the light, thinking something was in my room. I'd pray, and I'd get an overwhelming sense of peace, and I'd be able to fall asleep. So I always knew how to reach out to God when I needed it, but I was never one to just reach out to God just to reach out to God. I was always, when everything's all bad, this is where I need to turn.
So when you think about God today, who is God?
God is living inside of me and all of us who believe. We are supposed to be a reflection of God, Jesus, and that's who I try to be now. I try to be caring, compassionate, considerate, polite, and, all the good things that, your parents teach you when you're a kid. My mother did anyways. And that's who I try to be a reflection of. I fall short from time to time, but still, I get up and keep going.
So what does the future hold for Josh Dickey?
I want to start my own business. I want to start a mobile welding company because I've been doing welding since I got out of high school in 2003. And, I want to give back and be involved in the church. Play with my kids and whatnot. That's about it.
Does anybody else have anything burning questions that you want to ask?
Don't everybody raise their hand at once.
Okay, so I'm curious, so have you, you and your father, you looked through that, and was he abused? And
I don't know if well, I think he was abused, not physically, just mentally. Excuse me?
was he a drinker? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
he's straight sober. He was just an angry-hearted individual.
But you remember his father?
Yes,
And what was he
complete
like?
opposite.
Really?
Yes. His mother, on the other hand, though, she was real hateful. She wanted him to be a girl, and he wasn't, so she wouldn't even let him sleep upstairs in the house. He had to sleep in the basement, and I mean, there was a lot of mental abuse going on there, and it carried over to him from mental to verbal to physical to me, and then me, I took it as an example of what not to do to my children. So, I mean, my son's very well behaved. My daughter, she had a mouth on her, so I don't believe in hitting my kid, but she still needs punished. So it's all right. I'm gonna need 25 squats out of you. And then when that got to be, okay, I don't care about squats. All right, well, I need 25 lunges too. And then when you're done, go run the stairs. And these are ways that I used as punishment instead of physically hitting his child, because you spare the rod and spoil the child, but also I don't believe in physically hurting a child for discipline.
Don't have forgiven your father. And work through that, yes, with Jesus Christ in your heavenly life. You work through
No,
that.
ma'am.
But you know that's where he wants you to go.
You're absolutely right. No, I have not.
At the same time,
Yes. I mean, me and him just don't speak. I haven't spoken with him since I was 17, and I think that's just where it stays right now. But I understand you're right. I do have to forgive him.
well, that's between you and the Lord, and
Yes, ma'am.
So in the Army, the drill sergeants used to say, when you get out of basic training, you're either going to be really smart or really strong. Yeah.
That's what I used to tell
Smart
my
people
daughter.
do what they're supposed to do. Strong people learn
Yeah.
because they're, there's a lot of push-ups involved.
That's exactly what I told my daughter. I said, I'm going to have a really good daughter or a really in-shape daughter. I said, I don't really care which one, but I'm going to have one of the two.
Anybody else have anything? Any question?
I know the answer to this, but since you did start changing your life, and I got to see that happen, but do you find it so much easier to find people? Do you find it so much easier, though, to communicate and to actually love and feel love?
So you're asking if it's easier to communicate without being confrontational?
Correct.
Yes, I actually get joy out of speaking to people and teaching them what I know about the Bible. And but you're right. Before I used to see what I could say to make you want to fight, and that I was hurting on the inside. So if I'm hurting, I figured why can't everybody around me hurt? So I'd say something to eat at you to where you'd want to put hands on me, and that was who I was when Miss Ann met me. And since the humbling and the praying and all this, I'm considerably different, considerably more likable. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to so many answers from this. So, are you changed and are being changed from your own will?
Yes.
Or I didn't finish the question. Or the power of the Spirit inside of you.
Both. Because I have to take the first step and let him in, or him to do his magic within.
So you will be tested.
Absolutely. Always, every day.
All right. Well, we are going to get to a sermon today because it's going to feel like I knew all this was going to happen before the sermon was put together. I didn't, but
Yeah.
God did.
Absolutely.
So therefore, because normally on days like this, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to throw the sermon out, just do it next week. But it's just for me, just listening to this and just being here was like, okay, like I know why I was doing it. Because the sermon today was very different. It's a kind of a complete shift from where we have been, and I didn't really know where that was coming from. Now I kind of do. So once again, it's going to feel like I'm talking to you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, out of all this, I'm literally just trying to address you or whatever. But it really was put together. If I don't erase the board after every time, I would have shown you the board to see it. But I do want to I just want to thank you, for coming, for being here. I want to thank you for being open and being vulnerable and being willing to do this. I just think it's going to help your own healing to think about some of these things. It helps us get to know your heart and get to know your passion because, we may not be big in numbers, but we are strong and caring and love. And you have more of these people here that are going to be praying for you and encouraging you. Just think of this entire room as just a bunch of Miss Anns. Not all of us are as forceful. Not all of us are as forceful or as blunt or as demanding. But we're all just as loving and caring and supporting. And so we want to see you more. We want to hear from you. And know that the Sunday after Thanksgiving, don't make any plans. Plan on being here the Sunday following Thanksgiving. You're not going to want to miss that.
I'm sure I'll get a text.
Yeah. That's the day we'll have about 5 or 6 guys from the camp will be here. We'll have a big Thanksgiving meal. A lot of testimonies, some music. I'm sure Jerry will we'll ask Jerry to play that day, which we all know what that means. And some of our other guys that have gotten out will come back and play. So
I have one more thing to say. If relating my life to like music before I met Miss Ann, it would have to be like Pantera. If it's a band, it's like a rock band. It's one of their albums is Vulgar Display of Power. That's how my life was. And now I got an old church choir singing in my soul.